People who, in many instances, have absolutely no clue what they are doing. The Marxists, the anarchists, the looters.
Nice. Welcome back to Inane Blather. I know that you, dear listener, are just coming off of the heels of episode 107, going directly into episode 108 because all you listen to 24 hours a day.
All you live for.
All you live for, all you love and hold dear is this podcast.
As it should be.
Yeah. But don't worry, you're just like thousands, nay, millions of others.
Yeah, or at least dozens.
You're trying
maybe.
to overcome the same disease, this addiction
You're
to
not alone.
garbage political takes, garbage economic takes, garbage improv and grammar.
And sound drop or whatever.
But you know what? Yeah, and it's still, you're still just screaming.
This is absolutely lit.
Every time you load it up. But you just keep coming back because there's a vibe.
Because
we love each other.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because there's this vibe. I'm doing this to you because I love you, listener.
That's the vibe.
You did this to yourself.
Yeah.
No, you're not being gaslit. That's crazy.
Yeah.
for
You're
you to
crazy.
think that.
Gaslighting isn't even real. You're crazy for thinking that it is.
Yeah. That's never even been a word. But mostly because I don't know. I'm just going to lead right into it.
Headstrong, stubborn, quibbling, self-centered, vindictive, obnoxious, hormonal, sexually preoccupied, evil, thieving, cross-dressing jerks.
That's straight off the diaper barge over here. This is garbage from the diaper barge.
Straight garbage from the DNC Diaper Barge pulling up on Lake Michigan, yeah. However they talk over there,
Yeah,
something
I'm not
about
really sure.
sausages and talking like this. Talking about dogs and the bears. And,
Bears.
The problem with going to the DNC, I had a friend who did that last time they were in Chicago.
He died when baboons kidnapped and ate him.
That's what happens.
Classic Chicago. All that crime, that
Classic
baboon
Chicago.
crime.
Yeah, I think he put ketchup on a hot dog. and
He was executed. Yeah.
and was executed by the state. He had back when that guy with the Lego hair was in charge of being corrupt. Who was the Blagojevich?
Blagojevich.
That was Illinois,
Oh, wow,
right?
yeah.
Illinois. Was he a U.S. senator? Yes. Yeah.
Blagojevich. That's a name. Now that's a name I haven't heard since.
Yeah. Yeah. In a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rod Blagojevich to speak at the 2024 DNC. Yeah. Followed by Anthony Weiner.
Yeah.
And
Like, whose vote are you trying to
who's
get
the-
here? Yeah.
who was the guy? Who's the SNL guy that got Me Too'd before Me Too and was canceled out for
Oh yeah.
relatively innocuous
I can picture him. I can totally picture him.
Al Franken.
Yeah, I feel like
so
he
we're
was
talking
one-
about the diaper barge garbage takes that we have. That's
Yeah.
our memory.
Talking about the really important stuff like Al Franken and Rob Blagojevich.
Yeah, yeah.
Very
You know who
topical,
else
you
is
know?
an integral part of this conversation? You guessed it, Frank Stallone.
Yeah.
Rest in peace to Norm Macdonald. We'll always love him. So, the DNC is going on. I don't know a lot about that stuff. We'll just scroll through some articles together. But
Maybe from the NYP.
Oh, of course, the nip.
Of course, yeah.
We're gonna tuck the nip. But did you know that the hummingbird is the only bird that can fly backwards?
I did.
I saw multiple hummingbirds down in Vegas.
Mom has so many in her backyard.
And I guess last time we podcasted, I was down in Vegas. You know, they talk like that in Vegas.
Yeah, they're all about Rob Blagojevich.
The Blagojevich and hot dogs and bundling up for the cold weather. Yeah, big winter coming. Oh my God, it's so fortunate that we have zero following. That we don't have like people like in Chicago that are listening like, Jesus Christ, it's not even close. It's not even close to like a cartoonish like mocking accent. It's like, what the fuck
you guys
is
wish
that?
you sounded like.
Yeah. We're like, I'm just doing my Washington accent. But I just saw a Snapple fact, dolphins are unable to smell. I kind of doubt that. I bet if a dolphin washes up on the beach and you let it sit there for a few days, it'll smell. Good joke, Doug. Okay.
Nice.
But,
Creativity to me is just like, it's like a bird, like a friendly bird that embraces all ideas and just like shoots out of its eyes all kinds of beauty.
That's all I was thinking while I was down in Vegas.
God, I love that.
I was in Vegas. It was a good time, except for, of course, injuring my foot immediately before vacation. We went over that when I recorded.
Going to the Hoover Dam on a sliced open foot.
Went to the Hoover Dam. I said, hey,
creativity
the
to
Bears,
me. Yeah.
I live in a van down by the river.
Now that's the first goddamn thing you've ever said that made one piece of fucking sense.
It was a really nice vacation. We saw ardent listener, our younger sister, Emily, shout out to the amazing
she was just
nice
listening.
high-end restaurant she's
today.
working at right now. It's really nice. Best filet I've ever had in my life, because I don't usually get fillets. I usually get a ribeye or something. Woo, mama.
Ooh,
filet
mama pajama.
Con mole amarillo. And whatever, Emily, you're gonna have to remind me of what the names of those greens are. It was the one time I spoke in Spanish there when she was waiting at our table, and I said, "Que son voglablablablos," or whatever, because I'm not gonna just make up a Spanish word and say something horrible.
My mother was a saint. Yeah.
Yeah. And saw Hoover Dam. Did you know? Well, I guess, I've seen you a couple times since coming back, so whatever. Did you know, dear listener, that if you used all of the concrete cement that went into the making of the Hoover Dam, you could make a 4-foot wide sidewalk that stretched around the Earth's equator?
Wow.
Which is kind of cool.
Wow.
You know what? After going through that, wow.
Yeah.
Shut the hell up, bitch. You're ugly. You're disgusting. I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, I had some facts going,
So forget about it, cuz.
But, I should have looked up. I should have put it in my notes. I totally checked out. It was nice, going on vacation. I didn't think about anything. But, I am so privileged to do so. I don't know why everyone else doesn't just pull themselves up by their bootstraps, a.k.a. let your house burn down in a fire and kill your dogs. Duh. Just, you need to let go of these these things, man, like possessions and your belongings, and just, man, just make sure you have insurance when you do it.
And just have a house that you bought, that you have homeowners
Inane Blather
insurance
does not
on.
endorse or condone insurance fraud.
Arson.
Arson, yeah. But unless it's an oil billionaire's home, whatever, take me to court, all right? I'd just love to see it happen.
I'd love to see, yeah.
It was
I
like,
would
that'd be
love
amazing.
that.
We end up in the Supreme Court, U.S. versus Inane Blather. We'd finally get over like 1,000 listeners.
They play like
but,
clips from our show, and it's like Chicago over in
yeah, Chicago. And I'm just like,
Go kill yourself. Go sit in the middle of the road and let a car run over you.
So I went to Vegas, saw hummingbirds. There's always hummingbirds around there.
Flying
We
backwards.
saw hummingbirds in the park in Boulder City when we saw those bighorn sheep that come down at even, I thought it was like, hey, we can look out around this area. You usually see them. But
no, they're laying right there.
Our mom's husband, it was like, hey, they're right there in the park. And we went out, and there are little markers in the park markers, as you say. Markers in the park.
How the hell are you?
Doug he's the real deal.
That talk about how it's like, this is the local bighorn sheep's favorite vacation spot. And they come down from the hills, and it's like, make sure you stay away and stuff. I mean, there's bighorn sheep with huge swinging ball sacks just walking around. It's like,
oh yeah.
But it has facts about the bighorn sheep because they know that they'll come down and they'll sit in the shade at the park and eat the grass that's there. It's one of the few places where there's like
pickings,
grass.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there were a bunch of people around just taking some pictures and stuff. But and of course, as soon as I took a picture of one of them just let loose and started peeing. And it's funny because they say the bighorn sheep, they'll go down, they'll get their water, and then they can go like another 2 to 3 days without drinking water. And it's like, oh yeah, so they store a lot of water. When they're doing it, and he was just straight up pissing for everyone to see. If anyone wanted to take pictures, just kept going. It was like 2.5 straight minutes. I swear to God, I'm just peeing. I was like, good Lord, man. But they were cool. But yeah, I wish I'm gonna have to look into some of the stuff that FDR and Hoover said about like these public works projects.
And how gay and lame they were.
Yeah, how fucking stupid and like, bordering on socialist policies. It's like, back then, it was really, it was inspiring. No joke.
Sure.
Like the little 10-minute video that we watched in Hoover Dam, with, because it was just cool, all the facts and the history and the mammoth project that is, and the things that they did in the 1930s, but for $4 a day or $4 a week or whatever it was great pay during the Great Depression. And they built, that's what Boulder City, I guess, eventually became, is because they built a town to house the people that were creating the Hoover Dam, and they had to, and then that builds roadways, and they still have like these great machines that they can carry stuff across the big canyon, back and forth. These big mechanical machines, they can hold like 300 tons worth of stuff, because otherwise you'd have to go around the other way. Oh, and how the pieces for the power plants literally couldn't travel on interstate roadways. So then they just built a factory on site to fabricate all that stuff. And that, gets people making these huge pieces of machinery that were really cool, and it was just really neat. The feats of human ingenuity and bending
like
the planet to their will. Yeah. In order to serve the common good. And that sort of thing was in like the little speech excerpts from FDR that they had in the video and stuff like that. It was kind of out of date, some of it too, because it was talking about, I mean, it's like, well,
So
since
the
this video came out, there's a lot of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. He was like the narrator. It suddenly showed the narrator. He was in blackface.
Yeah.
No, but it was like from the 90s or early 2000s or something. But I mean, it's like, well, all this like the water usage over the last decade especially, but you know, I mean, it's been a big issue. But that's the thing, like this inspiring message that is true, where we can be stewards of the environment while also using it to our advantage to progress society as human beings. Or, I mean, you could be a nationalist about it even. Like, it's like as to move our country forward and our fellow countrymen or whatever. It's like, it can be done. And it's like, well, this is kind of out of date because look at all the problems with the Colorado River we've had and getting water places. Like, yeah, because that, I mean, it's kind of silly, you know, it's like, but it is part of the problem is that spirit of doing things because we can do it, you know, because it's the right thing to help the most people and to push us forward. That isn't there. I mean, of course, capitalism in Chicago.
He's bad. That's what they say, you know?
Yeah, that's what Ben Shapiro says.
Capitalism is bad.
And it's like, I mean, there's so many things that stand in its way, and it's like we've stagnated so much in terms of actual, like, that's real innovation, you know? Or even, I mean, because it's like, what do you consider innovation, like, or economic innovation, things like that, scientific, you know, it's like, it's just actual true achievement, like really achieving something. It's like when the railways were, you know, pushed the country forward, or even stuff like, yeah, and like coal plants. I mean, stuff that's not good now, but monumental, you know, changes to society and the economy and all that stuff, good and bad, you know, it's like, it just gets so stymied by like this never-ending search for profit. And it's just so simple of a critique, and it's not cliche. It's just true. Yeah. It's like that's how the system is set up, truths. Is to like get as many different, you know, avenues for revenues, different avenues for profit seeking along every single link in the chain. When instead, you know what, the Hoover Dam, this absolutely monumental project that, you know, built in the early 30s, that even with, you know, they revisit and they, you know, with like, not codes, but structural engineering and stuff, the way that they built it, it's built to last at least 2,000 to 3,000 years.
It's Ford tough.
Like you would have to purposefully blow it up to get rid of it. Like it can withstand an 8.9 magnitude earthquake, stuff like that. And it was finished 2 years ahead of schedule. Like, yeah, it was just, they just got it done, you know, I just need to, revisit some of that stuff that like FDR said. And the reason that they named it after Hoover, because he was the, what was he? He was the Secretary of Commerce or something like that. But he had a hand in so much of this stuff, you know, and it's like, liberalism, whatever you want to say. I mean, it's all done under capitalism. It's America, of course, you know, there's all these problems. It's like, But let's look at the big picture here, folks. Like,
we're talking
stuff
big
can get
picture.
done. Yeah, stuff can get done right. I mean, or not, or to the best of our abilities. And the only way to even like find the limits of our abilities is to do stuff like that, like as a society. It's like, I was talking to, mom's husband about it when we were on the way back out, and how even him as a, for lack of a better term politically, MAGA dipshit.
I mean, he's a Trump voter.
Yeah, he's a Trump guy. Super nice guy. Yeah, he's one of those very inexplicably well-intentioned, done good for others kind of person who falls into that path. Not inexplicably, because he's
rich.
and he's a white man,
Or not rich,
but
wealthy.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess, that's true. Yeah. So, but anyway, how we could still can meet totally on the same page with like, it's like, man, you know what? It's we were talking about that FDR speeches, the video, all the stuff for the Hoover Dam when we went there together. And it's like that spirit of achievement and progress and stuff. I was like, I told him, I said, gosh, whoever is in charge of this stuff needs to just sit down and watch that 10-minute video. If we had more people watching that 10-minute video, we'd have a light rail system from New York to LA. And he said, exactly. It's like we're just in such agreement on it, because it's like, doesn't matter. It just gets down to this weird how it gets done. But it's like we all want stuff like that to get done. The people that don't care about like society coming together to make those things, they're the ones that are left out and should be, they're weird. I mean, whatever, you can have your opinion, but okay, go have your opinion over there. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
But it's like,
wrong.
Yeah, because otherwise it's like, it would make sense if you had that opinion because you're a money hoarding billionaire piece of shit, but you're not, you're just a fucking, like some guy that lives in Arizona. Fuck you.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't give a shit that you're like, we don't, I shouldn't be responsible for this sort of thing. The free market should take care of it. Literally, I'll cut off my own finger to not have to listen to you. But
yeah,
it's like, society literally doesn't need your input, man. Because you don't want society to move forward. You don't care. You're too selfish.
It would be interesting to give like some sort of examples where the free market helped drive any of our innovation, because with the American government, it's like, that's like literally like one of the crowning achievements of mankind is that we went to the moon. That's the government. That was totally, that's NASA that did that. Some of these things like the Hoover Dam,
the internet.
Yeah, bringing electricity, all across the entire United States to rural areas. That's was a huge project to do, and those kinds of things. It's like, businesses don't do those kinds of endeavors because they can have huge losses. Like if it's just like, especially like space exploration and all those kinds of things, you have to have this funding coming in, and can be okay also if things are like costing, just like they're not going as planned. You're not worried about any sort of profit. You're worried about getting a job done, and like doing something and not making anything, not making any money off of it, having a completed whatever your goal is at the end, like getting a man on the moon or whatever. Those are kind of things where there's like a lot of costs associated with it that businesses just can't sink into, like, well, maybe it'll go this way, but as they go down this way, then it's like, no, this isn't working. We're going to have to like, we're going to have to go like this. Yeah. For-profit businesses can't work like that. Like, they just can't.
Free market capitalism is great at innovating ways of making a profit.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's innovating
ways
to make money.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And it's like, and like you're saying, when the goal isn't, okay, how can we do blank, and blank is literally anything legally permissible, to make a profit. Then there's lots of ways that you can arrive at that. That's the ingenuity and innovation of American business. But that's it. That's what the end result is.
Yeah.
But when you're saying like there's an actual goal of like, how do we put a man on the moon? You know, how do we how do we split an atom?
How do we
What will
irrigate
happen?
Eastern Washington? You know,
Yeah.
these motherfucking idiot farmers. No
And that
offense to all you
wasn't-
idiot
they
farmers,
didn't
but
do
I don't know
that-
if you guys know, but the fucking water that you get goes through the motherfucking government, you stupid idiots. Like the damming of all of these things, the irrigating, you know, all of this kind of crap. That's not like, that goes through whatever the kind of county, it goes through those kinds of things. That's the government making it possible for you to even do
Columbia
this
Basin
fucking work
irrigation
in
project.
Central and Eastern Washington. It literally would
yeah.
not be possible to grow fucking corn in the desert of Eastern Washington, obviously,
Yeah.
you know, like without irrigation.
And you get all this power from all of these fucking hydroelectric dams. And it's like, and even that, where it's like, well, of course, part of it, it's like, yeah, the goal is, yeah, we're going to make money through agriculture on this land. But it's like the way that it
Or we're gonna
actually
make
got
food.
completed and done was, yeah, we're going to make, we're going to turn this land into food, or we're going to turn this land into agriculture. You know, when that is the idea, then instead of like, hey, we're going to, you know, step one and then question marks and then profit, you just, I mean, things can get done. You can reach that, but it's not the same rate of success, you know, in terms of big
Profound
projects.
effect, yeah.
Just look at the fucking Tesla tunnel in Las Vegas.
No thanks. Yeah.
Idiotic. You know, it's like, because at the end of the day, Elon Musk
He's my
has
brother.
the end goal
Yeah.
of profit. He didn't have the end goal of like improving transportation in Las Vegas.
No,
That's just a fact. You know, and I was thinking about that when we were at the Hoover Dam. I was talking to Sophia about it, where it's like, man, it's too bad. That is like the least talked about part of Elon's businesses and his quote unquote ideas or whatever. As this billionaire guy with these different companies, the Boring Company is easily the coolest part of any of it. Like SpaceX, it's like, yeah, you're just commercializing what we already did as government. You know,
Yeah.
maybe you're doing things quicker or cheaper. I don't care. But it's like the Boring Company. It's like, yeah, you made these big boring machines. You can make these tunnels. You can like do these projects. I saw the boring machines 2 years ago in Vegas. One parked up next to when they were creating
were like,
the tunnel.
boring.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, and of course he has to like call it the Boring Company. It has to be a fucking meme or whatever. It's like,
It's very unserious.
shut the hell up, bitch. But it's like, you know, when you see it at the Hoover Dam in the last stretch of the tour that we did, where they're like, and actually the tour guide, he said, this is funny. It's the one long tunnel in there that wasn't wet around the edges. Like there's water dripping down the rocks here and there throughout a lot of this. You go 500 feet straight into rock, down into the bedrock when you start off the tour. And
You
it's
get down
like,
into the bedrock, that's where things get wet. You know?
Yeah,
if you know
something
what I mean.
that Elon Musk doesn't know about.
Yeah.
He only fucks to procreate like a weirdo. But
God.
but yeah, and then the last it was like dry and stuff. They said it's funny. This is the only part of it. This whole stretch of tunnels was built in the 90s, and it was for the purposes of like these tours, you know, and to get people up and down for the tours at Hoover Dam. And they said, so this was actually, done with like drills and boring machines and stuff. And I even said to the tour guy, I was like, oh, this one wasn't done with dynamite then. He says, nope, no, not in the 90s. It was a little too dangerous.
Yeah.
Because of all the dynamiting that they did in the 1930s. It was crazy.
Dynamite.
And how they how they accomplished that. It just still blows my mind. It's really cool. It's such a, I don't know, it's a corny thing or whatever. You go to the Hoover Dam and take the tour. I was like, it really was inspiring.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I bet.
and that's what brought up in my mind. It's like, yeah, like, oh, the earth movers and boring machines and stuff like that. And it's funny. That's kind of the coolest and most useful thing that Elon Musk has. And he talks about it the least, and it's already been done. So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, electric cars. It's like, yeah, we were already getting there. I mean, whatever. I mean, you can credit him for making it a much more viable business, electric cars, because he finally that Tesla was the first company to put out a fucking electric car that didn't look like shit. You know?
Yeah, I know. They're so. I mean, when they first came out,
got going for them.
Yeah, they're so sexy. I like the way
Yeah.
Teslas look personally.
Still like how they
not
look.
the Cybertruck so much, but
But then, and then
yeah.
something that he's got his hands on from the ground up, it's like, oh, it's an abomination. I said we were parked right next to a Cybertruck last week when we were getting poke. At a deli. At a deli.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, anyways,
So
yeah,
let-
it's like interesting to think
How was
about.
your week?
Yeah, just interesting to think about a government like doing projects to help their people. I mean, like, look at China. They got like all these plans. They got all these kind of trains
Yes.
going. They got all kinds of stuff like infrastructure, like making sure that it's there for people and like really having like undertaking those things for their people. It's like, when was the last time the United States did some big project for us? I mean, like, besides
It's all spent
like,
on war.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Like, those are the projects that we get to be involved in and spend hundreds of billions of dollars to make sure that brown people die or whatever, you know, our whole
Trillions.
goal is that, yeah, it's like, or that we have oil to make rich people richer. It's like, really, there is nothing like our money goes like, it doesn't really help us out at all.
No.
And
that's what is the statistic? It's like all of the money spent on maintaining a combination of the Iraq War and the Afghanistan War could have replaced the entire United States freeway system with light rail, with high-speed rail, not light rail, high-speed rail. You could have that amount of money and labor, and you could have done it with fewer lives lost, I would venture to guess. But and it wouldn't have
be a good
ruined
guess.
sovereign nations on the other side of the planet. But I mean, you know, this is a Ba'athist podcast, so we're very pro Saddam. No, just so everyone knows.
yeah, I guess
But,
that maybe that hasn't come up before, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
People should know.
I'm sure everyone could assume safely. So how was your week? What were you up to with work?
Same old, you know,
Yeah,
just
but
making
you
the
have a
world a
cool
better
job.
place. I know. Yeah. I was over in Spokane over the weekend, talking to folks over in Eastern Washington. A little bit different of a vibe over there for when it comes to
Especially
ranked choice
Spokane.
voting. Yeah. Over by Idaho, you know, that's like just a different sort of thing, and I think that they kind of pride themselves
Being
on that
very
too.
nice about it.
You know what? It just kind of
Spokane sucks.
Spokane is like whatever. It's really beautiful there. The city itself is like, wow, this is so beautiful. I fucking hate driving there for one thing, but also, so something that's interesting to me that obviously I don't really argue with people when I'm out doing this kind of stuff. That's not really my goal, of course.
Right.
But
It's not like when you were with like Amnesty
where I'm
International. They
like
want
talking,
you really getting in people's faces.
I mean, they definitely don't mind as much, you know, or whatever. We just have like,
pleasant
you know,
debate.
we have a very like narrow focus. We're about ranked choice voting. We're hyper nonpartisan and all this kind of stuff. And something that I get really tired of though is like, though I get it, and I was, you know, I think I'm a good person for this role rather than someone from just who's like been from the west side or whatever, because the attitude here in Washington, it's really real east side versus west side sort of thing, especially Eastern Washington. And I'm like,
Rural
I totally
versus
get
urban.
it. People feel like they're not heard. I'm from Eastern Washington, blah, blah, blah. So I talk to people, but I get really sick of the idea that it's like, so whatever, this is just an example. It comes up the Electoral College, and like, oh, people want the popular vote, but then that means just California, New York, and whatever, they're going to be running everything, and they're just like, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
democracy simply doesn't work.
what I want to say, it's like, so, like, I guess this is partially the bad messaging from the Democrats or whatever you want to say, is like, so do you think that they're just going to be like, fuck you guys? Like, fuck farm subsidies? You idiots! They're the ones trying to help your poor, broke, uneducated, stupid asses. We're the ones trying to help. Like, it's like, oh, we'll just be left behind. It's like, in what way? Why is it? It's so fucking insulting to me, where it's like, what? You think that because, like, liberals are getting elected, that it's like, you're just going to be left behind. You're never going to get anything you want, that blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, what do you want? Trans people to be executed? Well, you're not going to get that with liberals in charge, I guess. Maybe. But, or what is it? It's like the idea that you're going to somehow be left
Worse
behind.
off.
Yeah, like you're going to be worse off if like Democrats are in charge. It's like, but I mean, of course you can go on and on.
Even
like
nonpartisan, if the big cities are in charge.
Yeah, that's what,
You think, Chicago and Seattle and San Francisco and, New York and Dallas. It's like, you think if these are, sentient cities or whatever, they can't exist without, like, agriculture, stuff
that's what,
like, energy production, all that stuff, water, resources. I mean, that's the whole problem. It's like, the rural thing. Well, it's rural. It's land, That's why the cities would have, quote unquote, more say. Because there's more people. It's less land, more people. It's like, but don't get it twisted and think that people over there think that land is worthless.
Yeah.
It's there we're using it. We're all using it, just like how you are for your farm or whatever the fuck you do. It's like, or you're drilling for oil, if you're just talking about economics. But it's like, sorry, man. We're all in this together.
And literally,
like,
people on the
we
right
still need food.
The right,
just like how you need computers.
They literally say these right-wing motherfuckers, and you don't even have to be that right-wing to be like, oh, yeah, let's make these jokes. Oh, climate change, who cares? Just be like the coastal cities, who fucking cares? You're like, you guys literally say you
Billy
don't
Potwin.
care if people in these cities die. Like, you just, like, do not give a shit. They have a way more, like, whatever kind of attitude than
wants to leave them behind.
Yeah.
That's where it is. It's
That's
projection.
what I feel like. It really
insecurity.
Feels like you guys would. Trump was like, fuck these cities that
charge.
won't listen to me over COVID. Fuck these cities. I'm not going to give them aid. I'm not going to fuck Seattle with their immigration policies, like, or sanctuary cities for this and this and that, whatever. Like, literally saying, I'm not going to help these cities out that don't. And it's like,
literally saying,
they
I
don't
don't
say that.
want what's best for you.
Literally, you have Democrats out here sucking the cock of everyone in fucking Ohio. Who cares about Ohio? But, like, literally going out into the Midwest, into these places of, like, rural, quote unquote, real America. That's all they do. That's all they want is your fucking vote here, guys.
Yeah.
That's, like, constantly what they're doing. Talking about the average worker, talking about farmers, talking about
because they're not. Because we're all on the same page here, and they refuse to believe that it's like, no, we also agree. Farms are important.
Food,
it's like,
we like it.
Yeah. And it's like, I mean, you can disagree. It's like, maybe those farms shouldn't just be making corn oil or something like that people aren't eating, or and like shipping your fucking inedible corn overseas to make money for people who aren't you. God, it's just like, we don't want to leave you behind. It's literally I mean, you could disagree on the methods or whatever it is, you're a conservative and they're a liberal or something, they at least still think we want what's best for you. Or if you're a leftist saying, we still want you Nazi fucks to have health care because we want everyone to have it.
We want your
it's
unions
like,
to be strong.
When the shoe's
we want the
on
working
other
class
foot,
to be supported.
Yeah, you want them to die. It's like, despite the fact that you have this insecurity, because if it were up to you, that's what you would do. Like, what you think the liberals in charge are going to do to you
is what you're
is
doing.
What you would do.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it's like the thing that constantly comes up. Or I mean, it's like that same bullshit. It's like, oh, an atheist. They don't believe in God, so they just they have no morals. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, just because if you found out that there wasn't a God,
that you just
would
go
start
raping
and pillaging.
Yeah, it's like, that's a you problem.
That's not how I see things, dude. Like, that's disgusting. That's on a you.
That's what literally I've had people tell me. They just don't believe in a majority ruled democracy, straight up with these kinds of things, because it's like people getting left out, and it's like, well, that's the thing about living in a society, is that, you go by what most people want. I don't think that anybody besides these conservative, I don't know about any leftists, because I'm in an extreme camp here in America, of course. My progressive ideas are extremely far left relative to the actual ruling left in America. And I'm totally fine with knowing that my values are not going to be represented, because I do not represent most Americans, not even close, at all. But they, it just comes along. It's just this weird attitude of a privileged attitude, and how people over there too, just really expect you, not over there, of course, now I'm just othering Eastern Washington or whatever, but where
okay, Natalie.
Ooh, that was way louder.
that, they just kind of expect you to agree with you, and this guy coming up to our table and be like, oh, if Trump wins the election, it's gonna be World War III, there's gonna be a civil war, people are gonna be so mad about it. He's a Trump supporter, and just saying what a problem it's gonna be, and just kind of going off and talking about all of this in a way that it's
assuming that everyone's sees it the same way that you do. Mm-hmm. It's like, no.
Yeah.
And not everyone watches Timcast.
Yeah, I just it was just an interesting thing. There was a lot of course, there's a lot of great conversations, but it just was
he said if Trump wins.
Right now, you're very close to a world war on this whole.
That's what you're saying?
Yeah. But
he's on the golf course.
I would say it's people that they're kind of, well, for me, for ranked choice voting, people don't want majority rule. They don't, because they have some idea that it's that's not, because they know about sort of the popular vote is in the ideas. If you're thinking about, if majority of people want this is what should happen, then they're no, then we'll just be controlled by where all the people live.
That's a literal, well, I don't know why I'm saying literal, but that's a real being, quote unquote, left behind. It's because you're in the minority. So things aren't going to go your way.
And sometimes you're in the minority because you have horrible, bigoted ideas. know?
And that's the only way that real democracy works for the betterment of all of us, is relying on the hopeful and optimistic assumption that people are good, or at least the majority of people want what's good for other people. Because, we're discussing, fact of the matter is, not everyone's like that. There are a lot of people that are selfish, that are self-centered, and other groups, and they're bigoted, and literally just lacking empathy, and don't want what's best for other people. But if the majority of people have if the majority of people have humanity, then majority rule works to push us forward, because there is like you look at if you're looking at majority rule, then 200 years ago, that's not it's not looking good for minority groups or for the environment or for native peoples and stuff like that. But it's still but people still progress overall.
People,
I don't know.
Someone brought that up. It was like majority rule. It used to be slavery, and it's like, well, that's because they weren't allowed to vote, or women weren't allowed to vote, or people without land weren't allowed to vote. So that's not majority rule. That's just like a whatever kind of democracy, not a real democracy, whatever it was when it first started.
And even so, even with a little bit of democracy, those dissenting voices against the so-called majority that are holding bigoted institutions in place or whatever it might be, as long as those voices are heard and you can convince people, the entire project is about convincing the majority that, oh yeah, this is actually the right thing to do. Oh, actually, it isn't right to own slaves or something. And then it
not.
becomes an actual, you get actual nonviolent progress, because the true, truly what we're in search of, no matter what, is a way to have majority rule where no matter what, the minority voice is heard, that's what it's about. It's like, once the majority is silencing the minority, that's when you have a problem. Then you have mob rule or whatever. It just becomes a self-fulfilling, entrenching process.
Literally, we have the minority trying to quiet the majority here in America.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, so if you have the minority voices being heard, sometimes they are people that, they're going to get left behind. Yeah, because your views suck. But you have to be able to hear those if you're going to hear people that are going to be at the forefront of progress towards the next era of being more humane or whatever it might be, or ways to treat the planet or each other. You have to be able to hear those, dumb rednecks and Nazis in order to also hear a minority group that's like, hey, you guys haven't noticed our rights are being trampled on, or, whatever it might be. Or, hey, actually the planet's burning up. You got to listen, And as long as that can be heard out, sorry, but, and brought into the marketplace of ideas, then it will stand. It will stand the test of human beings coming together and looking and agreeing on something, just in general. And it's like, if you believe that people are good for the most part, then that will move us forward. But you should believe that, and you should believe that we actually agree on things, because we do. And if you don't think that we do, it's not an opinion, you're just wrong. Like Americans, especially, it just is true that we do agree. We are far more united than we're not. Yeah. But, like I say, it really, really pays to be divisive in America. If you want to, if you want to win an election, it really is a good tactic to be divisive. So, that's why. Duh.
Yeah.
It's like you just have to look at the past. Except, one of the guys that's running for president right now.
With ranked choice voting, it does not pay to be divisive. You lose elections like that. Like, just ask Sarah Palin, who got her ass handed to her in the election in Alaska. She's trying to repeal ranked choice voting there because she lost.
Oh my God!
Because she's a sore little loser and just ran like a dumb bitch that she is. With no policy, and she's just being a stupid, horrible, Exactly,
Yeah,
the
it's just
epitome of like a
hollow.
mudslinging, divisive,
Yeah.
politician, and just being.
It doesn't have
Yeah.
that goal of I'm
Helping
doing this
people.
because we're gonna
Because I'm
do
a
something
public
good
servant.
for my state or
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, serve constituents, listen to what they want. You're right. Where it's like, we do agree on all these things. It's like, it's just, repeatedly shown that, way more people than you think are actually for universal health care or for, reproductive rights or marijuana legalization, stuff like that. And it's like, why is that not a thing then? Where it's like, people, the majority are more progressive than what the laws show. It's like, well, that's the entire point.
Yeah. We are.
So, to finish here, we can go through the nip next time or something. But God, it's funny, the economic, the real economic anxieties that exist are the anxieties of economists. Because, like, so often it's like the house of cards that they've built is so close to being blown over. The emperor's clothes, where it's like, oh yeah, that's right. What we've been saying really has no basis in scientific rigor or anything like that. Modern economic thought is generally just voodoo philosophy. But lately, especially with Kamala talking about price controls, that's such a nightmare. That can never work. Don't you know that doesn't work? Don't you know that causes shortages? No. We only know that you have always said that that's what would happen. Who implemented some price controls and stuff to stave off inflation and help people and all that? Richard fucking Nixon. Okay? To stave off like the wild runaway policies of an ineffective Federal Reserve, just like what happened when Trump was president, cutting rates and then cutting taxes in the middle of a booming economy. And then, I don't know what happened here.
Yeah, what could have caused it? It must have been Obama.
Yeah, it's obviously Bidenomics.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God. This is idiotic. But, Vice President Kamala Harris announced an economic program for her presidential campaign that combines handouts with a Soviet-style solution.
If only, yeah.
The handouts include $6,000 for families of newborn children and wage boosts for union members. The Soviet-style solution is price controls, a strategy that has historically failed in other nations and is unlikely to succeed here.
Citation?
Another.
What's that? Is that cited?
No, I'm saying it's just like, it's like, exactly. Like you have it. It's just screaming from the roof. It's the exact same thing as like economists, or so-called economists, if they can so be called, because anyone can call themselves an economist. Just ask me, an economist.
Yeah.
But it's like going decade after decade saying, you can't raise the minimum wage up that high. It'll just result in business failures, high unemployment, and spiking prices. And they're wrong over and over again. It's like where it's actually tested, as in like put into policy, that doesn't happen. Minimum wage for fast food employees in Seattle is $20 an hour. You know what the unemployment rate in Seattle is? 4.6. It's like barely above the unemployment rate for the state, which is still, it's like
and it's still like legit,
maybe
like, not
a
enough
point
money
above like the national unemployment rate, where it's like if you're actually looking at monetary and fiscal policy, like how they do in modern economics for the United States as a whole, it's too low. Like from the beginning of Trump's presidency, and even through Biden's, it's always stuck with me where it's just like, historically low unemployment, and we're sending unemployment even lower, and people have jobs and stuff. It's like, that's kind of a problem with, like the American implementation of just free market capitalist economy is that getting too far below like a normal full employment number, it causes problems. It's like, sure,
like
that
it's
also reveals it reveals a problem inherent in capitalism. The fact that you need unemployed people looking for jobs in order to keep the market going correctly. It's like, oh, that sucks, like philosophically or ethically or whatever. But if you're
stay-at-home
leaving
moms,
those questions,
no retired people,
if
No
you're leaving those
retirement.
questions aside, like the actual morality of the system that we're in, and you're just looking at what's good for the economy, it's like you gotta stop pressing the gas so far below. Like it's a symptom, or at least a warning sign that it's like, you're gonna have high inflation, like prices are gonna go up, stuff like that, and eventually you're gonna have to rein it in, either with crazy rate hikes, which they've done, or it will work itself out through a recession and high unemployment. Like, and it's just the fact that, like a wise woman once said, we don't live in a society, we live in an economy, just shows how important this is, that using these economic, not achievements, just these economic indicators as political ammunition just sucks. And it's just like a given thing in the United States. Well, look at these economic numbers I've got. It's like that should be nothing more than nerds to look at and be like, hey, you know what could happen from this? For economists to be like, hey, this actually could lead to blank. It could lead to higher inflation than we want, or this could actually lead to kind of a job shortage in this way. Instead of like, hey, we got the number down, we've all got jobs. It's like,
and it should
well,
be like,
now prices are going up and everyone's overworked.
That's
asshole.
what I don't get. It's like, so if why are we not seeing any benefits if we're all
Exactly.
like literally almost every able-bodied person is fucking working in America. We had like for a while like the lowest unemployment rate in a long time, and so like, if all of this money is being circulated through the economy, everybody's getting paid, everybody's like buying things, where the fuck is like the benefit to this? I don't see
benefits.
Yeah, I don't see the benefit to any of this. I don't see where we're like gaining anything besides that everybody, literally the reason why we all have all these jobs is
Except
because
number
you'll be unhoused
Other
and like
number up.
yeah, starve to death without a job here. There is no safety net, like there's nothing. You have to have a job. Unemployment's so low because people got like 2 jobs, like,
oh my God.
It just really, I just have never understood like where the correlation is supposed to be, where it's like, so stock market's high, unemployment's low, and people are spending 50% of their income on their housing, and have very little discretionary income. It's like, where is all this trickling down, or what is that? What was supposed to happen again? We're like all in the workforce. We're all doing like literally exactly what you dumb motherfuckers told us to do. And like, so what's happening again?
And you can
nobody can buy a house, and
because it's economics, you can get some statistics and make some charts and say, actually, you're doing well. Actually, the economy is really good for you.
And
Look
it's
at
like,
this.
in what way?
And it's like, what? Then why doesn't it feel good? Oh, that's the media. That's them telling you. That's
the media.
You know, you're
telling me
being
about my
gaslit
bank
into
account?
thinking your life isn't good. You know, it's like, well, it just makes no.
It's like,
it's really.
I go to the fucking grocery
moronic.
store and I see in 2 years that prices have like essentially doubled for what I'm paying.
Yeah.
You know, gas prices have kind of gone down. You know, they're not $5 a gallon now. Great, wow. They're not so extraordinarily, completely like. Totally, I can't even afford it. Unaffordable. Yeah.
At least in Washington.
For sure. But I just don't get, it's like, it's not, it's like, I'm living it.
Just go get a pound of ground beef, all right? A staple, for many American households, something that I don't buy. Where I'm just like, I guess we're a chicken household, all right? It's like, we don't make Hamburger Helper, because I just look at that, I'm like, well, I guess that price is never going back down. I'm not going to pay over $6 for a pound of garbage beef from the diaper
barge.
Where after I have that Hamburger Helper...
People have to flush their toilet 15 times.
Nice.
But... I forgot that I was kind of reading this editorial here in the Nip. The Soviet-style solution is price control as a strategy. Oh, yeah. And Americans are already wary of government-imposed pricing on everything from food to tires. Yeah, because of you. Because of decades of I mean, it's already, we're at an hour. Just go on to decades
running out of steam.
Purposefully entrenching the current status quo way of managing the economy that does not work well for normal people, and telling you that any other way of doing it is going to be bad for you, the normal person, even though that has not been proven in the United States of America. And honestly, in probably target markets, it's probably been disproven here and there. Just like UBI programs, just like rehousing programs, just like there's probably price control programs that if they actually were meant to benefit the lower class, the working class people, the people below 50%, they are still good for the economy as a whole, and they benefit them. Otherwise, every other program that's implemented is going all the way back to the beginning of our discussion with making money in mind overall. Because it's like, how can we benefit these people and still make a profit for these companies? Fuck you.
Who?
You know?
Yeah, like who gives a shit about the economy? Like that's what it's like.
When
if it's
you
gonna
can't buy
ground
it's like
beef? I don't get. It's like, what does that have to do with anything? It's an abstract concept, and you guys have made it so like the thing about the economy, because of your stupid fiduciary responsibilities or whatever, is that like you have to make money on it. Like you have to make more money on these things regardless of how it affects the actual people. Because I don't know if these idiots know that without people, money is completely meaningless. It literally has no value without human beings to put a value to it.
As Cody Johnston says, it is a thing that we just made up.
It's not real. Yeah.
Let's see. Million, thousand. Okay. Oop, another zero there. Let's say divided by 300. Yeah.
Well,
it's just like, it's like Elon Musk is worth $200 billion or whatever. And you're talking about how price controls could negatively affect the economy? What are you... You're talking about how limiting, keeping, any sort of planned economy. That is true. This whole fear-mongering is what's idiotic, but Soviet-style price controls, you can say that any type of price controls would be like, oh, it's like Soviet style. It's like, yeah, it's called a planned economy, and it's just one tiny little thing in the U.S. economy, which is not a planned economy. It's just not. But it's like a planned economy, an element of a planned economy at its most basic form is price controls. And it's like,
people are on board with that.
But
People are
like
on
her
board
boss, President Biden, Harris has not demonstrated a deep understanding of economics. Neither of them seems concerned about the inefficacy of handouts and price controls. Number one, you're wrong. These so-called handouts aren't inefficient in getting people money. What you're saying, it's inefficient at what? At what? Like, because giving people money is actually a very efficient way to give people money.
And you know what?
It's like, what do you want?
Fuck these guys.
It's all about the goal.
They want what? Oh, no price control? All right. Insulin, it's $10,000 a month now. You're right. We should just do whatever we want. We should be more like Texas.
We don't want Soviet-style price controls on insulin.
So like Texas, when there's like a cold snap, people just die and then have literally a $10,000 bill for 1 month of service for their electricity because because it's all privatized, and there's no price control or anything like that. That's a way better way. You're so right. Just fuck people, let the rich get richer, and then eventually we can all die, and the rich can just, I don't know, incest themselves to death, I guess, because there's only like 10 of them.
And then we have a new generation of Habsburgs.
Yeah.
Yay! Now we're moving forward. Yay! Oh, wait, no, that's backward.
Yeah. It's already been done before.
It's like, Harris has not demonstrated a deep understanding of economics. Okay, tell me now, who has? Which president has? None
Donald
of them
Trump
have.
with his Tic Tac analogy?
Oh my God, Donald Trump doesn't know shit. Just because he knows about building and real estate, that doesn't mean he knows about macroeconomics. And you know who else doesn't have a deep understanding of economics? Economists. Okay, it's like, it's not a science. No matter how many times they tell you that it is, it's not. It cannot be, tested and all this stuff and reviewed without implementing social policies that still, even if you do use test markets to use economics as a science, ends up being so at the whim of people, of humans, of social. There's so many social effects. It's like it's sociology. Economics is sociology at its core, with some math in there. That's it.
Ugh, yeah,
and it only reinforces the point that we live in an economy, not a society. But anyway,
and I mean, other countries do things differently.
Tell me who has a deep understanding of
people
economics.
in different
Thomas
fucking
Sowell, fuck you.
People in different fucking countries that have economies that work for their societies.
Yeah,
people that actually have high standards of living. Yeah, like they're doing it right. So maybe we could learn something from these other places. They're always left out of the conversation. Like it's always just like whatever you're talking about China, you're talking about whatever. It's like, what about Denmark? What about what do you guys say to that? Oh, it was just they're all white people, and it's like that's fucking racist to say. Like it's so unbelievably racist. It's like, no, the kind of attitudes. It's like
economy.
They're homogenous societies, and it's like whoop whoop, warning. You're getting into some like really really crazy, disgusting like racist territory there. They're people. And they're doing things different because they actually listen to the science behind things, like the social sciences. They have strong welfare programs. They do price fix things. So blah, 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 blah. Because they live in a society. They don't live in an economy.
But it is...
And they still have bloodthirsty fucking capitalism over there, too.
They also live in an economy. Because economics is it's it's sociology, whatever. I was gonna say, what country didn't have like the homelessness that we have, that
North
didn't
Korea.
have unemployment, the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
Because it was a planned economy. I mean, of course, there were many issues with it. Just
Name
like
10.
It's
No.
like, yeah. And there were many, many issues with the U.S. economy in terms of providing for people. Like, I mean, hey, if you just have a planned economy so that everyone has a job or has their basic needs met, I mean, that's socialism, but it's like, yeah. So there is literally no such thing as homelessness and unemployment. And it just sounds like a utopian fantasy. It's like, no, that's just definitionally how that economy is organized.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm hot. Crime-filled Chicago displays all that's wrong with Democrats
with
in
a
one
gun.
failing city.
With
Chicago.
with a gun in that graphic.
And yeah, the crime scene do not cross caution tape. Okay.
And some of it's just like $16 billion budget or whatever. It's like, yeah, it's the third biggest city in the United States or whatever. You know, it's
Yeah.
like they have big budgets. It's millions of people live there. I don't know if you knew that.
Hey, like you say, what are you talking about, New York Post? It's like the NYPD is like the fourth largest military in the world.
Yeah. Like, yeah, you're from New York, you say? You don't like the budget that Chicago has? Well, I hate to break it to you, babe.
Yeah. I know you make sure to say you don't think about Chicago. They just think about you, but it's a pretty big city, man.
Yeah.
It's pretty big. Pretty
Pretty
big.
big. Yeah.
I mean, I don't plan on going there. I don't give a shit about Chicago.
Same.
No,
It's in the
I'm
Midwest.
just kidding.
Who cares?
I would
No, I'm
like
just
to go
kidding.
there. It seems really like a really cool city.
Chicago.
That's a place with skyscrapers there. That would be cool to see. So,
the windy
anyway,
city.
Yeah, a lot of wind. It was like when Homer goes and drinks in the pilot's bar at the airport, and it's like, and you have to be a pilot to go drink at the bar when he was kicked out of Moe's or whatever, and they're like, hey, someone comes in, oh, we're short a pilot. Who wants to fly a plane to the Windy City? And all the guys are like, hey, me, oh, no, me. He's like, conditions are going to be kind of windy. And they're like, oh, no, never mind.
Oh, yeah.
And I
Windy?
keep telling you flyboys crack me up. Okay. Anyway, shout out to you, dear listener. Note for you, dear listener, watch, season 6? Marge's Fear of Flying. It's a good episode. It's really fun, and it talks about psychoanalysis and therapy. So,
Yeah.
but
It's kinda like
it
The
has some of my
Sopranos.
favorite jokes
Yeah.
from The Simpsons, all in that one episode. Are you gassy? Is it gas? It's gas, isn't it? Okay, I love you. Thanks for letting me blab on about
Thanks
that.
for all the listeners. Shout out to R.M. Brown, our Lord and Savior, and Humby Bumby, if they're still listening. Which
Owned.
Yeah.
Consider yourself owned, because you are.
They don't listen all the way through, and they know that. But
sounds like you're pretty into this, buddy.
Emily also listening to it. Zach maybe. Thanks for the views.
Yeah.
That went slightly better than the worst it could have possibly gone.
But at the
now
end of
we
the day,
say-
what I really want to say is I'm really lonely. I seek a woman's touch and human comfort, so my DMs are open. Oh, no, but what I was actually going to say was...
Bitches leave.
So, all right. Love you, bye.
Bye.